Hello, welcome to Skye Sweaty Concert Review. Now normally on this channel I review new music that is less than a week old. I get off an elliptical and I immediately review it. As such, I tend to listen to mostly new music by new artists or new music by old artists. But I've been getting into reviewing other things. So I reviewed Bohemian Rhapsody last week as a music movie, and I thought I would do a concert review for the Bob Dylan show that I saw last night, November 14th, Rochester Auditorium Theater, Bob Dylan and his band. Also my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Amos. Although I don't think you like Dylan. So I want to talk about this concert and tell you why it was great. I've seen Dylan now 3 times. And I was certain each time that it was going to be just as bad as the last time. So the first time I saw him must have been 95, somewhere around there. He was touring with Santana, and I went with my buddy Brad. And Brad's mom dropped us off at the Great Woods Amphitheater outside of Boston, actually outside of Norton. And we were there, and it was just the worst, man. He was just blustering through his songs. He's mostly playing guitar. You couldn't hear us singing at all. It was really rough. The band wasn't very good. He wasn't very tight. It was unlistenable. It was like I was only listening for the sake of saying that I watched and heard Bob Dylan. Fast forward, I don't know, 7, 8 years, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, Bob Dylan was playing at the Boston Garden, okay? Now, this time, it's at the Boston Garden, so that's a different venue already, where the Bruins play. And I had invited my father, but he bailed for some reason, and I had an extra ticket as well. So I didn't know who to invite. So I ended up inviting this odd pair of people. I thought, I'm going to go see Bob Dylan. Who are the 2 people that I know who love music, who love Dylan, and also come from Minnesota? And so I ended up going with one of my best friend's fathers and my French professor. Kirk and Lindsay. So it was this funny thing, because I was like, 24, 25, and I was here with what I perceived to be old men, although I'm probably right around their age now, so sorry guys, you weren't that old. And it was kind of this funny thing, because we were sitting there watching, and I mean, these guys really love Dylan. As a matter of fact, one of them is personal friends with Greil Marcus, and I think his editor or something. So my goal is to be the Greil Marcus of French professors on YouTube, so we'll see if that works out. So he really knows his music, and my other friend who is there really knows Dylan, and so I felt like I was in a really great crowd. And that was back when Dylan was in the Superslick phase. So he had the hat on, and he had his little Nashville suit, and he sang every single thing in the exact same way. Ba 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 ba, which was fine. It wasn't terrible, but it was weird. Like, I didn't love it. It was okay. It wasn't a catastrophe. I was glad that I went, but I wasn't quite sure. So when I went last night, I thought I was going to get the same Bob Dylan concert with the hat and the Nashville suit and the very tight band and just kind of playing da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it was weird because I had this sort of back and forth with my ex-wife about whether or not I could take the kids. It was a school night. It was her time with them. It was this whole complicated thing. But my father loves Bob Dylan, and ever since 2002, I've wanted to go to a Dylan concert with him. I think for many people of my generation, Bob Dylan very much represents the best of our fathers and mothers' generation. And so it meant a lot to me to go to this show. I mean, he came to Rochester, New York. I mean, that's pretty rare. Okay, David Bowie got arrested here. The Grateful Dead played a great show in 1977, but that's it. That's all that's happened as far as live music in Rochester. Oh, and I saw Wu-Tang Clan once. No, that was not great. So I knew it was important to go, and I wanted my kids to go, because I have this fear that when Bob Dylan dies, it's going to be impossible to listen to Bob Dylan for like 5 years, because the amount that the baby boomer press and the baby boomer people are going to be telling us how he was our poet and the greatest of the second greatest generation, and it's just going to be like Prince or like Michael Jackson, just all day, every day, just talking about our greatest genius and poet and all these things. And I know that's a cynical position, but it's true. It's harsh. It's harsh when those things happen, and especially because he himself, I don't think, would want that kind of weird posthumous lionizing, right? So I really wanted, it's not that I wanted to see Dylan before he died. It's that I wanted to see Dylan before he died and he became sainted by the American press. Because he will be, because he deserves to be. So the whole week I'm talking to my kids and we're listening to Dylan, and they don't really like it. They mainly like the Weird Al Yankovic song about Bob Dylan, which is a very funny song. My son said to me, you know, I have a hard time taking him seriously. Which I think, if you took Bob Dylan and you sat him down and said, my 13-year-old son said he has a hard time taking you seriously, I imagine that would be Bob Dylan's favorite criticism he ever heard. Because I don't think Bob Dylan takes himself as seriously as others do. I think he thinks of himself like Woody Guthrie, like someone who kind of invented his own story and then sort of bought into it, and then everybody went all in. Anyway, all that's to say, that's the setup for this concert. And there's this whole like stress about, am I going to get to see the kids on time and where are we going to meet? And everything fell right into place. It was perfect. My dad showed up, the kids showed up. Their mom was awesome, very helpful getting the kids there. And so there we were. I got really good tickets, third row. And I'm getting ready and I'm expecting to see the same thing. But instead, I got something way better. It was an amazing show. It really was. He is way better than he was in 2002. And light years better than he was. And light years better than he was in 2005. 1995. I think the main difference is he's playing piano most of the time, and he's not wearing the stupid hat. I mean, if you see that picture, you can tell. That's basically what he was like the whole show. Now, the nice thing was they forbade any cameras at all. So it was really cool because you didn't have people holding up their cameras the whole time trying to get a picture of the legend. Oh, the legend. But there he was, you know? Yeah, that's what he looked like the entire show. You want to know what he looks like? That, the entire show. But he was even kind of smiling. He seemed at ease. The band plays all the time. They don't leave any time in between the songs. And I think that's probably because if there's like 1 second of silence, someone will be like, play the 74th Street, you know? Play something off Infidels! You know, weird like people trying to like scream at him. And I imagine he doesn't like that. Now, why was it so great? I have a theory about what's happened to Bob Dylan, and I'll give you a concrete example with one song and the way that he sang it in 3 different ways. I think the key is this album, Fallen Angels by Bob Dylan. I put it on and listened to it for 30 seconds and took it off. I've never listened to it since. My father gave it to me as a gift. He thought it was some other album. This is his version of classics. You know, like he does, you know, Young at Heart, All the Way. And I realize Bob Dylan is sort of becoming Sinatra-ish. Now, don't laugh. I'm not comparing him to the Great Voice. But what he's doing is he's rephrasing all of his old songs. Much like Sinatra would, he's becoming a master of phrasing. And that's where he's putting his artistic energy. He's becoming a Bob Dylan interpreter. He's interpreting all of his old songs with this great band. Awesome drummer, really understated, great guitar player, dumb hair, great multi-instrumentalist as well, bass player, the whole thing. But it's like he's interpreting himself as though he were a crooner who didn't have a voice or who was losing his voice permanently. So if you take Like a Rolling Stone, so he played it all 3 times I've seen him. In 1995, if we just take the line, as you stare into the vacuum of his eyes, asking, would you like to make a deal? Something like that. Like back then, it's like, I started out to a deal, as I feel. It was terrible. 2002, he was like, as you stare into the vacuum of his eyes, I can like to make a deal. How does a deal? To be on your own. Which was better. But this time, it was totally different. He was like, he would say, he was playing it on piano. Like, as you stare into the vacuum of his eye. And, like, there was kind of like weird pauses. And the band would play descending notes and would build in breaks. Like the break that's in right before the chorus of Like a Rolling Stone and extend it out. It was great. And so, it says, would you like to and then he hits that middle note that's on the album, okay? That middle note that Bob Dylan can hit, that's not like, it's not like, that middle note that Bob Dylan hits rarely, and then goes into the chorus, and it's not like it was in '95, and it wasn't like 2002, it was, how does it feel? Like it's right in the middle of those two. So it's rough, it's a little bit up, but it was great. It was wonderful. And that's like my least favorite Dylan song, just because I'm a contrarian jerk. But that's the best way to discuss it. Some other highlights he did When I Paint My Masterpiece, but he turned it into a sea shanty. I mean, I swear, like he's playing, like I want to hear a live album from this. Because the piano's like, boop, 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 doop, boop, 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 doop, boop, 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 boop. And the harmonica is doing the same thing. The harmonica is the least annoying that Bob Dylan's harmonica has ever been to me. And our show ended. Sorry, you can hear my dog. He's apparently a Dylan fan. He's got little nails. He's click-clacking. Do you want to come up and review the show with me, Bo? Come. Okay. So our show ended with Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, which I've always liked it, but it's a little bit too folky for me, the original. So this time he plays it on a piano, and it becomes a really beautiful, moving, sad ballad. I would say more than it ever was. He's not quite a lap dog, by the way. That's why he looks so awkward. You want to get down, Bo? Okay, there you go. All right, and then I say that's when our show ended because we left early. That's another public service announcement. Just leave concerts early. There's no reason not to. Maybe I missed a couple good songs, but we didn't have to wait, and it was a school night. So that is my review of Bob Dylan at the Auditorium Theater. If you have a chance to see him, I would say go see it. The highlight was actually probably the song Scarlet Town, which is a fairly unknown, fairly new song. It's great seeing him. It's more than just seeing the American giant before he passes. It's more than just FOMO. Fear of missing out. It's actually a truly great show, and I'm very happy I went. And my dad's probably going to be one of the 4 people who watches this video, so thank you for getting the tickets. And my kids might watch this sometime, so thank you for going, because it's pretty special to get to share something with your father and your kids. Okay, so for Skye's Sweaty Record Review, I'm saying there's the camera. That's my catchphrase.